You're listening to another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, where we believe that having the right systems in place is the difference between you growing and scaling your agency much easier and faster. And if you want to know more about the right systems you need in order to really propel your agency to get to where you're going a lot quicker, I want you to go to jasonswank.com/playbook. That's jasonswank.com/playbook. And I'll walk you through the exact framework that over 1,000 agencies all over the world are actually implementing and using that's making a difference. Now, on today's show, I have an amazing guest, Elizabeth, who's going to walk us through how they took their PR agency and pivoted into more of a full service agency that's really growing at a rapid pace. Hey Elizabeth, how's it going? See, I jinxed it. I jinxed it already, right?
You did. You still sound smooth though, and you look good, so that counts.
Well,
I'm well, thank you, Jason.
Good. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you guys do.
So I'm a managing partner at Bliss Integrated Communication. I started out in traditional B2B PR in 1991. Eek, that was a little while ago. Over time, some years, a few hurdles, and some luck, I now own a 50-person integrated marketing firm.
Very cool. Now, let's talk about kind of why did you start an agency back in the day?
Well, I didn't. I just got lucky enough to get in on the ground floor of starting an agency. So there's where the luck starts to play in. But I was a bookworm from way back when, and so the notion of kind of playing with the written word all day long, every day was appealing to me.
Okay, perfect. And let's talk about, because I think your story is very interesting of how you guys pivoted from being a PR firm, right, and pivoted to more of a integrated marketing. So can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, it starts with, I don't know if a horror story is too dramatic, but it starts with something really kind of negative happening, which is traditional news media completely collapsed. All the folks that used to want to pick up the New York Times and read an article, basically in droves decided that they would rather go read a blog post online. And as the news media collapsed, all the advertising dollars also collapsed, and it left the PR industry sort of wondering, what are we going to do next? So we were faced with what I'd call kind of a must-have reinvention. We knew we needed to expand our services. We really weren't quite sure what that would be or what that would look like. And part of what we had to figure out was, okay, well, we used to be rewarded, and by the way, we sometimes still are, but we used to be rewarded for getting you on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. We don't know how to get you on the front page of Google. Like, what does that look like? How do you do that? And so we had to kind of figure out a game plan to get there. And it was going to take some years to achieve that.
Gotcha. And what were your steps? Did you guys start hiring people that had those skills? Did you acquire other agencies, or did you guys just start taking training courses or just trying to do it?
Yeah, well, we had one ace in the hole, which really helped us. The ace in the hole that we had was that our core capability was, and still is, by the way, our focus on professional services, financial services, and healthcare. So we had longtime industry expertise, and it's unusual, right? So what do those three industries have in common? The one thing that they all have in common is that they sell intangible ideas. They don't sell tangible things like Coke bottles or loaves of bread or whatever. And that knowledge base, that industry insights knowledge base, is difficult for competitors to mimic. And so what we figured out was, as we reinvented ourselves, we could finance that reinvention by continuing to sell the insights, since people couldn't quickly pick that up. So that kind of kept the dollars coming in the door while we figured out how to transform. And I can jump into the transforming part if you want.
That'd
now.
be great.
Okay, so transforming basically got down to a strategy of know what you don't know. My dad used to say that, and that is Real important. So you don't want to bullshit your competitors, your prospects, your clients, and you really don't want to bullshit yourself. You want to be honest about what you don't know. And so as that idea and that strategy kind of took root, it took a couple of different forms. The first was understanding that we as the agency leaders couldn't delegate that knowledge acquisition to the middle management of the company, which we kind of wanted to do. We kind of wanted at the beginning to say, this is your problem over here. I'm the big shot making the money and keeping the doors open. Could you figure it out? And we did realize after about 6 months that was an incredibly poor choice. So I personally took that back up, and that led to some other kinds of decisions in swift kind of following. So the first was we hired a really great teacher who came in, love the cat, who
There
came
you
in
go.
and
It's totally live.
guest star. I like it. The teacher came in and spent 2 days with our team and sort of from a big picture point of view, here's how you could reinvent. And then also from a really granular point of view, here's how you could price. Because when you don't know about new services, you really don't know how to price it. And that's material if you want to be successful. So that was an issue. It also required, and this is just, I say this because it's the most boring thing, but it's the most honest, truthful thing. You have to work really hard. Like I would say my average business day increased 2 to 3 hours every single day. And that's understanding that there was no outcome for it. There was no money coming in the door for it, but that I had to personally do it if I was going to have any hope of switching a culture and a company to do it. So hard work. And then the last part kind of for me, Jason, of know what you don't know, got down to the notion of be smart about your technical capabilities. So what we decided is we would always be the editorial strategists and the project managers. We would not, however, be the person who always did the technical work that lived underneath the new strategy. So we found really great partners to collaborate with, and we got the hell out of their way. So if I come up with a great idea, I have a really superb SEO partner that I lean on, and she's worked with me for over 10 years, and she comes in and she handles that piece. If we want to build a website, same situation. But I did retain control for all of us of the ideas that live at the top. And that, frankly, is where the more interesting work is, and honestly, where more money is, too. So that know you don't know kind of permeated the culture in different ways. But I think over time, it led to a lot of success for us.
Well, I love that you guys are playing at the top and you control everything, right? Because there's different levels of agencies that we've always talked about over the years. And a lot of the people listening and a lot of agencies out there live at the, roll up the sleeves and we're going to do all the work. But you're viewed as a commodity and you can be replaced very easily versus like Elizabeth, like your guys' agency, it's harder to replace because they're actually coming to you as the trusted advisor. And that is so, so powerful because they can't live without you. It's kind of like, what do we do if you go away, right?
That's right. That's right. And part of the tricky part of that too, Jason, as I think about your viewers and listeners is it's not just that you're down at the commoditized level. Very often those agencies, because I have a lot of friends who are in those agencies, they also act as generalists. And when you are a generalist, yes, on the one hand, you could theoretically do everything. On the other hand, you're dilutive. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't roll up to something. And what I really think helped us at the end of the day was that industry focus. It's just hard to mimic that. So maybe there are some things that we turn down, but there's more things that we gain in terms of just we're known reputationally for something that lives above marketing. That's just, hey, you need to figure out, the Affordable Care Act and how you might market against that. You can come to us. And that does matter.
I like that you said kind of focus, right? I started vlogging, and we'll talk about your vlog in a little bit. And I have a very cool question to ask you because I started vlogging about it this morning, and it's not going to offend you, but I think you'll get it in a second. But yesterday, I watched a video of Johnny Ive talking about what Steve Jobs would always ask him every day. And he goes, Johnny, what did you say no to? Because like, look, Johnny's the head of design. He's one of his most valuable assets at Apple, designing the iPhone, everything, right? And he doesn't want Johnny to be doing stuff that is not, getting them closer to their goal. And he said Steve was always the best at focus and blocking everything else out and saying no. And that's exactly what you guys are doing when you kind of get industry focused, because agencies struggle with that. I'm like, why do you guys keep going so broad? And we were kind of joking around in the pre-show or the pre-interview before, but it actually ended up being the same view. Like, you guys are industry focused.
Yep.
So why did you guys go industry focused, and how long did it take you?
Well, okay, I'd love to say that we had this, macro Orwellian idea of focus and we were going to live it and be it. I think we kind of fell into it. Our founder, John Bliss, was and is, he's just retired, a very, very smart guy. And so he, was a Princeton guy. So Ivy League graduate, and I think could handle complexity. And so while he was a generalist right at the beginning, he sort of found through his network that he was being asked into more technical areas of business. And what happens is once you do a little, it adds up over time. But I also think you do have to be, if you're going to get into the stuff we've gotten into, you have to be interested in being a little wonky. You actually have to look at the Trump tax legislation and say, I want to unpack that. I want to see what's happening. And that isn't everybody's cup of tea, I recognize, but we do find joy in that. And I think it adds up. If I were starting, at a base level and I didn't know where to generalize, I think the advice I'd give to people is, where do you get passion and energy? That's really what it gets down to. You could do everything, but don't we all want to create a job for ourselves where we're doing what we really like to do? I mean, I think that's at heart of it, as opposed to saying, I woke up one day and I wanted to understand, retirement planning, marketing aspects. Nobody does that. No. But you could say, I want to figure out the state of elder care and what's happening with the boomer generation. And maybe my mom is part of that generation. Mm-hmm. That would be a really interesting place to start that might lead you to kind of productive outcomes for your agency.
Yeah, and I think starting out, or you got to kind of just play with everything and figure out what you like or what you don't like.
Yep.
And, I know we started out as a generalist because I knew nothing about business. I didn't know what an invoice was. I didn't know.
Right.
People ask me, like, what's your reoccurring model? I'm like, what's a reoccurring model? I mean, like, literally, I knew nothing.
Right.
And if my hopeless self could, get to the level, all of you guys can as well. So let's kind of transition into vlogging. Now, the question I want to ask you, and this is kind of the theme of the vlog today, I think, is, are you vain?
Well, it's an awesome question. I don't think so. But on the other hand, I have an ego, and I do think that I get energy out of people recognizing that I have a good idea. Yeah. There's something to that matters to me.
Well, the reason why I ask is I think being vain actually holds you back, right? Because you care about what people think. And if you care about what people think, you're not going to get into vlogging. You're not going to get on video. You're not going to get on stage. You're not going to, and you're going to be probably a bad leader because you care about what your employees think. And so, that's why I asked that question, because I started thinking about it. And in the very beginning, and even up to a couple years ago, like, I didn't know who I wanted to be, like, when I grow up. And I'm about to turn 39 for the second year in a row. And, I was like, do I want to get on video? Like, what if I look like an idiot? And then I just said, the only thing that matters is, do I think I look like an idiot?
Right. There's that. And, you're onto something. In school, I never had any desire to do it professionally, but I did acting all through grade school and through college. And what you realize really quickly when you act is that to be a truly effective answer, you're just a medium that's translating an idea to the audience. You're hoping that you can make them smile or laugh or giggle or even cry. And I think that's really the same thing with vlogging or anything where you're on camera. If you're doing it well, you're trying to kind of reach out and grab someone's attention and get like the teeniest, 1/1,000,000th part of their heart for a few minutes.
Yeah. So why are you guys starting to vlog? Because this is, people have been vlogging for a number of different years. Now, agencies have not. I only can think of one, which is Gary Vaynerchuk. I always mention them because, man, they're the trailblazers. And it's pretty interesting watching. And so why are you guys starting to do it?
Well, it actually isn't without a little personal sadness on my part, because I am a words girl, as I mentioned earlier. I'm somebody that really does like to read Jane Austen. So the notion of writing a blog was very comfortable for me, and I loved it. But the fact of the matter is, people, Jason, they just don't want to read anymore. They really don't. They don't have the time and the energy. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You gotta understand that. So the idea of a vlog was, let me be smart then about how I offer a new content format to them. And then also, frankly, help for my blog, which is going to be called Marketing Espresso Shots, and it's just launching this month. The notion is integrated marketing as a concept is so large and unwieldy and massive sounding. Nobody really knows what the heck that means. And so the idea is, in these sort of crisp little 60-second vlogs, I'm going to just dive in on one aspect, define what it is, talk about the latest trend. It's a little recipe, talk about someone I admire that has core thinking in that area, and then just one action step that they can take if they want to try it. So whether it's visual search or event marketing or, PR or whatever it might be, and over the course of time, acquaint them with things. But, all of it started really because I recognized that they were less likely to read our blog, and we had to make a correction.
I know I've been, my bad reading and bad grades in English is finally paying off for me.
Right. It's all coming together for you now.
Like my dad always said, he's like, you got to read, son, or you're going to be left behind. And then YouTube came out. I'm like, the skies opened up, and literally I was like, this is awesome.
I've never played this though for my sons, because I got to get with your dad on that. And my boys are not huge readers either. So
yeah, I think it just comes down to my ADD, right? Like I just have such a hard time. Like I see the words on the page, but then my mind is racing 1,000 minutes, in 1,000 other areas. But if I can watch something and I can see something, I can digest it. And I can remember it. And I think a lot more and more people are that way. But, to your point, there are so many different kinds of people. I mean, case in point, this podcast, right? It's going to be a video, it's going to be audio, and it will be a blog post. So literally, if you're red, green, yellow, whatever, you're going to be able to digest it.
I think that's true. By the way, on the ADD thing, just a point, I think that I know there are a lot of people who have that label, including people in my own family, but I've also come to the conclusion that just as human beings, we now, I don't know if it's because of all the different kinds of stimulus that exist, but we crave multitasking. We want to do a bunch of things at once. We feel better that somehow we're more productive and we're achieving more. So, even if you don't have that label, my 15-year-old last night was watching LeBron and had his phone and had his computer to the left of him. And I said, could we pick one? But he was happier that way,
Yeah, I was watching the 13 Reasons on Netflix. I was watching YouTube videos. And I was checking email on my phone. I mean, literally, like I broke every rule of focus. But that was kind of my downtime. Like when I'm working, I'm doing one thing. But when I'm kind of relaxing, I need to be doing 1,000 different things.
Yeah. I get it. I do get it.
So I want to talk about the vlog a little bit more, because some people think a vlog needs to be following you around throughout the day, right? Ooh. And that's kind of how mine is. But yours seems a little different, where you're just getting on there really quick and going over a couple points that you want people to get. Is that right?
Yes, that is right. I
Perfect.
mean, I think for me, some of it gets down to what do I want for the business, right? And my sense is that your business, and I could be wrong, we're just getting to know each other, so you should jump in and correct me. But my sense is that to some degree, you're building a business that is reliant on your personal brand.
Yes.
My business, I'm not trying to build it that way. I have three partners, and so I have elbow room from that perspective. But I also want to open the door to the folks who aren't partners. You know, we have 8 vice presidents, for example. So what I was really looking for was a short marketing vehicle that could tee all of them up to have success as well. But if I were building an agency like yours, I would take a totally different route. And I think it's smart what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, there's the reason why I like your model as well is it's easy to jump in for, like, and for people listening, like, you don't think about you have to have your D-Rock following you around through New York City and all over the world because
Right.
maybe your life's not that interesting, right? You
Right.
can just jump on and go over the one topic that you want to communicate today and not
Yeah.
have all that filler in there that's, you know, just kind of, okay, yeah, look at me on stage. Even though it's cool, we all watch it, but you know, I'll be interested to see, like, in a couple months, like, does your format change? And I'm sure it will. Like, I know my format's
Absolutely.
changing day to day, and
Yeah.
be like, what's working, and just, you know, kind of trying things out. But you know, I applaud you guys doing that, and you guys also have a podcast, right?
We do. It's called Fresh Brewed News. I'm sure you're sensing a coffee theme, but we're kind of looking to jolt people with a variety of different formats. The podcast is a little older, not nearly as accomplished as yours, but what we are trying to do is give our clients in that case just a taste of that thinking that we hope to align to any emerging news issue. Because one of the reasons that people do hire us is our ability to be, even though we're doing much more than PR, our ability to be very responsive in terms of what's happening with the world and then figuring out how to leverage that from a marketing point of view for our clients. So Fresh Brewed News just tackles one topic per week, also very quick, 5 minutes at most.
Nice.
But it's an idea, it's an opportunity to just share ideas in a small way.
I love it. I mean, you're doing the two things I think every agency should at least try at least one of them. I mean, you know, podcasting I think is so underrated. I mean, literally you're in someone's ear.
Yeah.
Like in their mind. I mean, it's
Yep.
mind blowing to me. And, you know, just last week, it was our 3-year anniversary. And I still can't believe it. I've been like, I'm in everybody's ear. Like right now, I'm in your ear, which is
That's
unbelievable.
extraordinary. Yeah, that is amazing. And congratulations on 3 years, by the way.
Thank you.
Pretty cool.
And I want every agency to kind of think about that. And I don't care about what services you're doing or what kind of laser focused niche that you have. People will listen over time. And it takes a while. Like the first year, I don't think anybody really listened to it. I really don't. Like
Yeah.
I'm just starting to reach out to some of my first guests and I want to put them back on the show and be like, look, we actually got listeners now.
Yay!
People will know you.
But that actually could be kind of cool, right? You could have an editorial strategy for those guests that really wowed you in the first year. Maybe you turn that into a whole, marketing hook and you interview them, once every 5 years, and then you show that story as it changes for the agency over time. That could be cool.
Yeah, I mean it's all about storytelling, right? I mean,
Yep.
everything's just this big story and figuring out the mediums, like with your vlog and your podcast and your writing and videos and all of that. So I applaud you on all the things you guys are doing. Obviously, it's working really, really well for you. So we'll put everything in the show notes for the link to the vlog to check it out and the podcast. And anything I did not ask you that you think would help out our listeners?
Well, I would just say that strategist kind of role that I mentioned earlier that we try and take on, what's been helpful for us as we've owned it, and maybe your listeners would be interested in, there's been a difference in a way that we work with clients, whether they're large clients or small clients. So being a strategist for a large client means that you now have this opportunity to be the kind of synergistic glue that lives among the silos, because big companies are very siloed, as you know. And so the opportunity when you're the thinker is to rise above all those tactics, and you get to be the one as the agency giving the best ahas. And then for the smaller companies, what it allows you to do, if you're the strategist, is bridge up and to have a seat at the C-suite table, and to basically we've kind of gotten to be management consultants with the marketing twist, because they're very interested in how it all comes together. And so whether you're going after those big clients or those little clients, that strategy role does give you flexibility and honestly, I think more interesting work.
Yep, totally agree. Awesome parting advice. Well, Elizabeth, thanks for coming on the show. You rocked it, and it was a lot of fun, just like I predicted.
Thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate your time and seeing your cat, albeit briefly.
That will probably be, the screenshot, right?
I like it.
Are you vain and having the cat?
That's right. That's good. Okay, I'll look for that.
All right.